What does Texas A&M need in the portal? You've already landed some players at key positions. What are we focusing on now?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about some keys to victory in the Las Vegas Bowl. And then we are going to talk a little bit about the transfer portal and what the Aggies need left in said portal. Now, once again, Coach Elko and his staff, I think, have done an absolutely incredible job in the portal to this point. Number one priority, which we've talked about since the season ended, was wide receiver, and they have hammered wide receiver. And I don't even think they're quite necessarily done yet. So you've done a great job there. Now the question becomes, where do you go from there? You've brought in some defensive linemen. Are we done there? There's still a lot left to be done in the portal. Now, I think a positive, obviously last offseason, Coach Elko and his staff had a lot more to do in the portal than they do this year. This is just part of it. I mean, in the transfer portal era, when you hire on a new coach, in year one, they're going to need to use the portal a lot because you're going to see a lot of players leave and a lot of this and a lot of that. So, nothing surprising there. I think that's all expected. It's all normal. But now you don't really have to use it as much. You have to use it to really, like last year, Coach Elko had to fill entire position groups, it felt like. This year, it feels like you're just adding some bodies in some different rooms. And you're adding bodies for different reasons. Some, maybe it's upside. Some, it's you flat out need a starter. There's lots of different reasons to be using the transfer portal. And right now, the position that I'm now focused on, now that you've done a good job knocking wide receiver out of the park, and I still think they could add more there, but I think what you've brought in on top of what you have on the roster, what you have coming in the recruiting class, you feel pretty good about next year. So, to me, I think you got to keep going to get more defensive linemen. You've obviously already brought in some defensive ends. You've brought in some upside guys, Mpimba. You brought in Miles. You've brought in a lot of guys that, CRC. You've brought in a solid group of defensive linemen to this point. Most of them are ends, and I agree that ends are what you need, knowing you're losing some talented players. But I still think you need some big guys in the middle, big guys up front there on that defensive line. That's a position I would focus on because I don't think we just need defensive ends is what I'm saying. I think we need defensive ends and we need some interior defensive linemen. Because, like right now, you brought in Mpimba, who's an edge rusher, 6'3", 250 type of guy. Searcy, who's an edge rusher, 6'5", 262. And then Hayes, who's they also list as an edge, 6'3", 265. You need some of those 315-pound guys in the middle who are going to clog up some space. Now, you have some on the roster. I'm not saying like if you don't go get one of these type of players, you're in a ton of trouble. But I still think that is a group that I would go get another player in because it'd help you out. So I don't think you're done on the defensive line yet. I don't think you're done. I would go get a player like that. I think it could be huge for the future of this roster. The next position I have is offensive line. And it's funny because those of you that have listened to the show, believe it was early this week, maybe it was late last week, but we talked a little bit about how my opinion on the offensive line has changed. For a little while, I was kind of like, you know what? We're returning a lot of players. I feel pretty good about our offensive line in the future. But then it hit me like, okay, well, we're returning a lot of players on a, on an okay offensive line. And you look at this offensive line, you go, yeah, they were fine. They were okay. They weren't elite. They were fine, right? Now I'm kind of looking at this and I'm saying to myself, we want an offensive line that's going to be elite. So the question then becomes, with the players you have on this roster, with the returners that you have on this roster, do you have enough to take that step to the next level? And I just don't know. How much can these offensive linemen improve from last year to for this year to next year to really give confidence that, hey, they're going to be a really great group next year? Because, I mean, if your offensive line is elite, this offense just takes that another step. So personally, I would go get some offensive linemen in the portal. You've got the pieces there. You have some solid offensive linemen. But I think at the same time, you are going to be able to go get some players to really help take this group to the next level. So you've got bits and pieces on that line that I think can be great, but can you get the guys that will elevate it to the next level? And that's the question. That's what I'm really paying attention to on the offensive line. Another position I'm a little interested in is the tight end room. And this is another one where it's kind of like, what do y'all think here? What do y'all think about tight end room? You bring in Mike O'Reilly and you bring in Nate Borkercher. That's going to be a tough one to learn. Borkercher, that might be it. The Nebraska tight end. Then you bring in the Auburn tight end in Mike O'Reilly. But I mean, none of these guys get me just absolutely fired up. You know what I mean? They just don't. They just don't get me fired up for the future. They're solid additions to a room. I'm not saying that it's like a huge problem, but I just think last year in the transfer portal, Texas A&M brought in a lot of tight ends who really didn't help all that much, is what I'm saying. And I don't want to see them do the same thing. I don't want to see them do the same thing and kind of not really take that next level step. And that's why this position, we talked about it. The tight end position is one that Colin Klein wants to utilize. And I'm starting to kind of think, I just don't think last year, I don't think he had the weapons to do that. So they're clearly trying to get him the weapons to do that. Are these guys the answer? So what I'm saying is, if an elite tight end, a proven guy, hits the portal, I personally am not going to be upset if Texas A&M pursues him. Even if you have to spend a little bit of portal money, maybe we're like, well, we've already spent some on tight end. I just think you could really go get a guy. I don't want to miss on the elite tight end that goes to an SEC school and dominates, and you go, man, I should have got that kid. And then we don't see much production from these guys. So, I mean, because Mike O'Reilly, I like the upside there. I really do like his upside, but he didn't play a lot at Auburn. And then the Nebraska kid, Nate Borkercher, I mean, he's a blocking guy. You know what I mean? He's a solid player, but he's not going to come in. So now, if y'all think Theo is going to be the answer, which is something I really want to see, we're going to talk about that in a minute. If he's the answer, that's great. But I don't know if he is. So if he's not the answer and you don't think anyone on, obviously, you know, Donovan Green, is he ever going to figure it out after his injury? Which really is a tough one, because I was really high on Donovan Green. I thought he was going to have a great year. He did not come back fully healthy from that injury. So, you know, looking at this roster build up at the tight end position, I wouldn't hate going to get somebody. The last position to me, and this is kind of a maybe, is linebacker, and I'll tell you why. You have a lot of young talent, in this linebacker room. So the question then becomes, are any of these young players going to be able to step up this year? If you think they are, then I'm not worried about linebacker in the portal. If you think these young guys are going to take that step to the next level, personally, no, I'm not worried about linebacker. If you think some of them might need one more year and you're going to need a veteran to be behind, you know, Scooby and Terrian, you know, then go get one. That's kind of my thought process here. Is it's going to depend on what those young guys from last year did. And if they came in and you don't think that they're going to be all that, then I'd go get a linebacker. If you think they're going to be great, then I don't think you need one. So that's what I kind of think we need in the portal. I mean, you're good at quarterback. You're good at running back. You're almost good at receiver. They might go get one. I think you're fine. Feel pretty good about the secondary. If you want to go get a safety, you could talk me into it, but I feel pretty solid there. So I think those are the remaining positions this coaching staff needs to hammer for this roster for next season to be in a good spot. We're going to talk a little bit about the Vegas Bowl. We're going to talk about some keys to victory for Texas A&M over USC, and we'll do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many fun ways for you to pick up a win. I love betting on these anytime touchdown scorer parlays. I told y'all it's fun to put those together. It's also fun. Hey, put some money on 5 different players to score a touchdown. See how many you get right. Win. Go straight bet it. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do over on FanDuel. I love it. It's a ton of fun. I promise. Head over there. You will not regret it. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make everyone more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and of course, the Locked On Podcast Network. It is almost game day between the Texas A&M Aggies and the USC Trojans. And I'll tell you what, I'm really excited about this game. And it's funny. I'll just call a spade, ladies and gentlemen. Last year's bowl game, I mean, I wasn't that excited. I mean, I don't, if y'all were, I mean, it's a football game. You want to win, right? If y'all were, tell me, but I mean, I just wasn't all that fired up for the bowl game last year. This year, there's a lot of exciting things to look at in this bowl game. There's a lot of young players that we want to see kind of develop for the future. We want to see how our quarterback's going to play. There's a lot to pay attention to in this game that I think is going to be important for next season. So I'm really fired up to watch the Aggies take on USC tomorrow evening. Late kick. Don't love that, but it's Friday night, so that's fine. So some of these key to victories are different from my key to victories you hear me normally do on a game week. And I'll give you an example. I have Reed 350 yards of offense. So that means between rushing and throwing. Now, the reason I say this, I think that if he has 350 yards total offense, I think the Aggies win this game by a wide margin personally. Some of these keys to victory for today's show are keys to excitement for next season almost. And this is one of them. We've talked about Marcel Reed using this game as an opportunity to really have the fan base get behind him ahead of next season. There's still a lot to be decided with this roster. It seems like based on what the staff did going to get Zeno at quarterback in the portal, it really does feel like they're locked in and Marcel Reed's the guy. And Coach Elko said that. I mean, I think that's the reality. I really don't think you're going to have much of any quarterback. I mean, because like even last offseason, while we felt like Wigman was going to be the starter, there was a lot of, well, could Marcel Reed, look what he did against Oklahoma State in that bowl game last year in the Texas Bowl. Could he make a run at this, or is it for sure Connor Wigman's job? There was at least those conversations. I don't even think there's going to be those conversations this offseason. So getting excited for next season, I really want to see Marcel Reed have a great game. 350 yards of total offense would be awesome. To see him throw the ball well, to see him use his legs well, I think it would have all of us really fired up for next year. I'd also like to see him, 3 touchdowns, 2 through the air, 1 on the ground, 1 through the air, 2 on the ground. What I want from Marcel Reed is a game where we can all sit back and go, man, Marcel Reed was really, really, really good today. You got to be excited for the future of him quarterbacking the Aggies. The next thing I have here for keys to victory in this game, I want to see Ruben Owens go for 100 yards. We've talked about it in the offseason, heading into this season. We believe that Ruben Owens is going to have a massive, massive role in this game. We believed he was going to have a massive role in this offense, right? We thought it was going to be the Ruben Owens, Le'Veon Moss show. Ruben Owens gets hurt, and we talked about the offseason as well. We never got to see Ruben Owens prove that he's ready to take that sophomore jump, right? And we believe he is. So let's see that 5-star sophomore jump in the final game of his, sophomore year. Would love to see Owens have a big showing in this game and really prove that he's going to be a big part of this running back room. I mean, I believe that he's going to be, but we talked about it. He's got a lot to prove, and he never got to do it during the season, where I think folks have kind of forgotten who Ruben Owens is and who he can be. He can be an elite running back for this team, an elite running back in the SEC. So here's an opportunity. I think if he has a big game here and he goes for 100 yards and a touchdown and looks really good doing it, a solid yards per carry, I think we're going to all sit back and we're going to go, man, Ruben Owens is a really, really good running back, and he is going to be an absolute star in the future. And I think a lot of SEC folks are going to look at this and go, I think the Aggies have the best 1-2 punch in the SEC. So there's a lot for Ruben Owens to prove in this game, and I think if he does, it'll be big for the Aggies and the future of this running back room. The next thing I have here is do not let the Trojans quarterback Jaden Mava use his legs. He's definitely more of a passer. I mean, when you watch film, he's a do it both. He can do everything kind of guy. But he's 6'4", 220. He can use his legs a little bit to extend plays. The film I watched on him, he did that. He'll run a little bit. He's got 3 touchdowns on the ground. So, what that tells me is we need to be really, really careful when it comes to him using his legs. Not as like a blow by you kind of guy, but get outside the pocket and find someone downfield or take those 15 yards on 3rd and 7 when nobody's there. Don't let that happen. So I'm not saying he's a Marcel Reed type of runner, but it's something to monitor in this game. So do not let Mava become an elite runner. Do not let him use his legs a lot, because that will lead to a loss in this game. The last thing I want to see, I would love to see a massive game from Theo. If we could see a big game from Theo in this game, I just think I'd feel a lot. We just got done talking about transfer portal and the tight end position, right? We just got done having that conversation. I think if he could have a huge game right now, I think I'd feel a lot better about the tight end position heading into next season. I mean, he's proven it before. Against New Mexico State this year, he had 5 catches for 111 yards. He had 2 touchdowns on the year. He had 1 against Florida. He had 1 against Bowling Green. So, I mean, he played some significant snaps for the Aggies as a blocker, as a pass catcher. It really is everything. So, but I'd love to see him go have another New Mexico State-esque game against a solid team in USC. That'd be really cool to see. So would love to see Theo Monroe play well in this game. I think that would be massive for the Aggies. Got a few more keys to victory over USC, and we'll talk about those coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. Those of you everydayers here at Locked On Aggies know that I absolutely love the Game Time app. I've been pushing it on my friends. I've been pushing it on my family. It is the only place anybody should be buying tickets to anything, whether it's a concert. So, for example, for Christmas, I got my dad a ticket to a basketball game, and I got my mom a ticket to go see Post Malone. I got those tickets all on Game Time. It is the best place to buy tickets. Absolutely love it. Easy to use. It's not just concerts and sports. You can go to see comedians. Anything you buy a ticket to, Game Time has it. It's easy to use. I absolutely love the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So I really want to see young players step up in this game. That's another one of my keys to victory, because here's the deal. You're going to be without a few, players that you've seen a lot of this year. You're going to see young guys take some significant snaps in this game. So not only do you need young guys to play well to win this game, but that's another thing that can be a positive for the future of this program if the young players continue to show up and have good outings, whether it's a Bethel Roman or whether it is a Hicks or whether it's a Ruben Owens. Marcel Reed still thrown in there. There's a lot of young players, maybe it's one of the linebackers, maybe it's one of these players in the secondary. There are a lot of players on this roster that you want to see have a good showing. And I think if they do, it's going to be really positive for the future of this program. And also on top of that, I think it's going to tell you what you need to do in the portal. Like I just got done talking about with the linebacker room. You got a lot of young players there. Hey, if they don't really have a great showing against USC, maybe you go, okay, maybe we really do need a linebacker in the portal. So I'm definitely paying attention to that in this game, because if your young core of players don't prove that they really for sure are the future of this program, you're going to have to do some stuff in the transfer portal. The next thing I have, and this is our first real genuine key to victory just for this game, but score touchdowns, don't kick field goals. I want that to be something the Aggies improve on next season. I want to see more touchdowns, less field goals. So knowing that's the case, where is there a better time to practice this than in this bowl game against USC? So I really want to see Marcel Reed finish drives is kind of more what I'm getting at. Finish drives, score touchdowns. We've seen this be an issue at points this season, whether it's Wigman, whether it's Marcel Reed. Getting into the red zone and not finishing drives is one of the most frustrating things. I know it frustrates the coaching staff, frustrates fans. The Aggies need to find a way to get in the end zone. So want to see Marcel Reed and this Texas A&M offense finish drives in the Vegas Bowl on Friday. Last thing I have here, it's not a key to victory, but it's one word, and it's win. I think that this game, as I've talked about, it's a great opportunity for Texas A&M to go and leave a great taste in the mouth of fans. I mean, you go win this football game, I think people feel really, really good about next season. I mean, and I've talked about Marcel Reed goes out and has a big game. Ruben Owens plays well. Maybe some of your young defenders play well. Maybe some of your young receivers play well. And we all look at this game and we go, man, Texas A&M got a big win over USC. They played really well. They set themselves up for future success. This is all very, very exciting. I think those are all things that can be obtained if you play well and beat USC in the Vegas Bowl. And on top of that, the fans want to see bowl wins. Losing bowl games is not fun. Your fan base wants to see you win bowl games. That is the other part of the importance of this game. So you really want to see the Aggies go and win this one in Vegas on Friday night. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. I really, really appreciate it. Hope everyone had a great Christmas, had a great holiday season with their families doing whatever. Good games in football yesterday. It was a lot of exciting stuff. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button on YouTube, that helps the show out a ton. Leave 5-star review on podcast platforms. All that helps the show out a lot. Really appreciate y'all. Hope everyone has a great rest of their day today, and we will see y'all tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.